not follow Hodgson.
I'll see you later. Y'all get y'all blankets, y'all turn y'all lights down, bro. We finna get to some darkest moments in TV history.
Has really shaken up this Moncks Corner neighborhood. One resident said she was too worried about her children to come out and talk with us. And Sheriff MC Cannon says right now he can't offer much comfort.
It was March 3rd, 1989, in Berkeley County, South Carolina. 5-year-old Justin Turner leaves his home in the early morning, heading in the direction of his bus stop, where he was set to meet his neighbors.
So what is
his
this
stepmother,
nigga
Megan Turner, who usually accompanied him, had been busy in the shower, while his father, Victor Turner, was off at work, leaving Justin to make this short walk alone. Later on, Megan would wait for the same bus to arrive at the end of the day, only when it did, Justin never got off. In fact, according to the bus driver and the neighbors, he never even made it on the bus in the first place. That night, Justin Turner was reported missing, and the search to find him was underway immediately. It was the third day of the search, March 5th, 1989, that yielded its biggest turnout, with volunteers from the community banding together with law enforcement to help find the young boy, with the group being accompanied by a camera crew from the local Channel 2 station, as everyone shared the same hope that the child would finally be found. And so they were off, with many searchers directing their focus on the nearby woods, while others, including Justin's own family, would search closer to the property as well as its neighboring land. This included rummaging around various sheds and piles of trash, as they were made to leave no stone unturned that day, with everyone geared up for a long, grueling day of searching. Though in the end, all they needed was a few minutes.
Something's in there. No camera, no camera.
Oh my.
Where's he at? Where's he at? It's in there.
Oh.
With the cameras rolling, we see the moment that Victor Turner discovered his own son, stuffed inside an old cabinet in his own camper, with his reaction making one thing very apparent. Justin was no longer alive. The footage is devastating, and made worse upon the discovery that not only was Justin dead, but he had been brutally assaulted and murdered by strangulation. But there was something even more unsettling about this footage.
I know he did it.
The fact that that very camper had already been searched in the days prior, and likely numerous times, yet somehow Justin's body was never found, meaning that whoever the killer was may have hidden him there days after the disappearance.
The latest word about the boy's grim fate has really shaken up this Moncks Corner neighborhood.
They were clearly dealing with an incredibly dangerous and deranged individual, and tracking down whoever was responsible became law enforcement's top priority. Though this certainly didn't mean that results were guaranteed, as there was a severe lack of physical evidence found on the scene, making it incredibly difficult to find any definitive information as to who might have done this. And despite their best efforts,
Drink out water.
2, 1, Happy New Year!
A full year passed.
It's 1991.
And then 2, and then 3.
Happy 2000.
Then a full decade passed.
Damn, a whole 10? Damn! Damn!
From the start, Justin Turner's case was ice cold. And in the end, it seemed clear that it would remain this way forever.
Chad, your son being dead and then it's a cold case because they can't find the killer. Yo, I'd be sick to my stomach, bro. And Chad, I'd be sick to my stomach, bro. Facts, bro. Not gonna lie. I gotta go on some manhunt to find this nigga. No bullshit. Not gonna lie, why do killers kill? What they be getting from it? Niggas just be mentally insane, bro. And some people like the thrill of it. Like, some people get horny off of it, like Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm telling you. 20K is pops.
Breaking news this afternoon out of Berkeley County as
Hey, should I set up a prediction? Is it gonna be him or not? I'll put channel points on that bitch.
Berkeley County Sheriff's Office has made 2 arrests in the Justin Turner case.
The Berkeley County Sheriff's Office confirms that yesterday they arrested Justin's father, Victor Lee Turner, and his stepmother, Megan Renee Turner, in the upstate, both charged with murder.
35 long years after Justin Turner's body was discovered, it would be the very man who found him that was charged for his murder.
This nigga is an actor. Yo, this nigga got away for 30 years? He found them. Yo, I ain't gonna lie. His reaction to this was so real, bro. Yo. Pops, can I go? Can I get the mom? Nigga, what?
with his wife and Justin's stepmother.
Bro, chat.
This supposedly came as a result of improved forensic technology, as well as other information that had previously been unreported. Like one account where stepmother Megan had been overheard talking about how she and Justin had gotten into a fight that very morning, with the woman eventually laughing about it and saying, "But I won that fight." From the very beginning, Megan was always considered a suspect in this case. In fact, she had even already been arrested for his death at one point in 1990.
Who the fuck made a poll L Pops or W Pops? Yo, my nigga, who the Bro, y'all niggas do anything,
but was swiftly released on account of a lack of physical evidence. And this lack of physical evidence is still a factor to this day, as the recent arrest of this couple hinged mainly on circumstantial evidence, with one of the key pieces being that news footage. Investigators pointed out a number of strange moments in Victor's behaviors and actions that day when they went back and reviewed the recording, with the most glaring being that he had found his son literally seconds into the search, entering that camper and going right for the drawer that he was hidden in, almost as if he knew where to look. And given that he owned the property and he owned the camper, it makes more sense as to how Justin's body could have seemingly just appeared there, as he and his wife were the ones who had the easiest access to it.
So you telling me the body went missing, they reported it. Chat, you know how insane you gotta be? They reported a body missing, like the child missing. A day after, they could have found it, some shit like that. Then he took the kid's body, put him in the thing, and then, oh my.
On top of this, upon finding Justin, Victor didn't rush in to check on his condition, and he seemed to just assume he was dead despite only getting a quick glance. He didn't rush to hold him. He didn't.
Ain't gonna lie, it was mad suspicious when he found it in the truck that he owns, my nigga, because how the fuck would he get there, right? So, like, I would have been on his ass real quick. I would have been like, yo, what?
Yell out to him. He just backed away and told those around him that he had found his son. Shortly after, it's alleged that Victor asked the detective on the scene what would happen if a family member had done this, with this question supposedly being posed.
Chat, the proof is in the fucking pudding, bro. They should have been caught this nigga. What? Yo,
before it was even revealed that Justin had been murdered. The sheriff on the case later proclaimed about the footage. You look at it, you look at the actions, you look at the body language. I'll let the people draw their own conclusion. On top of this, the same sheriff also recalled that right after the body was found, Victor and Megan basically refused to ever speak to detectives again, and they never once called in to check on the case for the entire 35 years. With the sheriff saying, "Nobody that I'm aware of from any of the family has ever heard from them again. I never got one phone call. Not one phone call from his daddy or stepmother. What are y'all doing about my son's death? Not one. What does that tell you?" Watching the moments that Victor found his son's body, now knowing the context, disturbing doesn't even begin to describe it. And the fact that it took 35 years for this couple to finally be placed behind bars is baffling. But things were about to get a whole lot more shocking.
During our hearing, we requested that the charges against Megan and Vic be dismissed. We were very fortunate today that we got a copy of the order from the judge dismissing the charges against both Megan and Vic.
As on June...
You know what's crazy, chat? The judge sat there. Oh my, self-defense. Hold on.
June 7th, 2024, months after their arrest, Victor and Megan were released from prison, and all charges against them were dropped, with the judge citing a...
She's happy as fuck, y'all. Oh my God.
Lack of any new conclusive physical evidence, as well as the fact that nearly 20 people who were initially involved in the case, including witnesses and those who initially provided key testimony, had since perished, with the judge believing that it was now impossible to get the full story. On top of this, it was also discovered soon after the arrest, a notorious serial killer just so happened to be in the area on the day of Justin's murder. His name was Richard Evans, and though it's unknown how many victims he truly has, it appears that at least 4 kidnappings and 3 slayings have been attributed to him, with some of these victims being taken in broad daylight when they were getting off the bus.
Dumbass judge.
Richard has long since passed away,
like, what?
and there's really no verifiable links to prove his involvement with this crime, with this potentially being just a strange coincidence, as it is worth noting that it seems like the rest of Justin's family still believe that Victor and Megan had killed him. But all of this left the case in a position that the judge felt was unsolvable, leaving the case without conclusion and without justice. Meaning that in this footage, we may never truly know if Victor had just discovered his son.
He did it, bro. Joe, what's up, man?
Or his victim.
The 3-day search is over, but not in the way
Cause how would you, he literally said, 2 seconds, like throughout the second day, he found the body just like that. And how would it be in something like he owns that gotta be unlocked in? Bro, it don't make sense, bro.
Que não recomendamos para crianças nem para pessoas sensíveis.
Fat, exactly, yo, like what? Weirdo. Judge should have been through the book at him.
Recently, I discovered something truly distressing.
Had him out of there.
I was being double charged for Netflix. It turns out that I was paying for an old account that I didn't even realize was still active for well over a year. And I only found out thanks to today's sponsor, Rocket Money.
Hey, is that W Snipe?
The man with the yellow hat, we're going on a camping trip. This is a beautiful spot.
L Snipe, bro, that's W. Alright, let me do better than that.
George turned around and saw something scary.
I'm gonna get better at it. I'm gonna get better at this shit.
There seems to be something innately interesting about survival shows. For decades, audiences have been enamored by depictions of people pushing themselves to the limit in order to survive harsh and almost inhumane conditions. Most notably, and one of the more tame examples, is Survivor, which no doubt popularized the genre, as it isn't just a staple of television in the US, but all the other countries that have since created their own version.
I watched like one episode of Naked and Afraid. I was like a little jit though, but like they never sparked my curiosity. I ain't gonna hold you.
Of the show. In France,
I was like, why would you want to be in that situation? Like as a little lad, I was like, why do you want to be there, gang? I watched 2 seasons. Word.
The show was called Koh Lanta and was created back in 2001 by the company Adventureline Productions, or ALP for short. And by the year 2015, the show was one of the most popular in its market, having seen 13 successful seasons. And so, riding the high of this impressive feat, ALP decided to try their hand at a new show, one that was far more daring.
Hur fasen ska detta gå?
Like, these were fake though, right, chat?
The show was called Dropped and would follow 2 teams of 4 contestants who would be blindfolded and dropped into an undisclosed location each week via helicopter, with each team having the same mission: make it to civilization, charge a phone, and make a rescue call. And the first team to do so would win, while the losing party would have to vote one member off. It was a fairly interesting idea, but it also already had a proof of concept, as there was actually an identical show being made in Sweden at the time that was already well received. Though Dropped wanted to turn up the interest even more, and that's exactly what they did when they announced that the cast would be composed solely of famous athletes, most of whom turned out to be French Olympians who were already well beloved in the country. It had all the makings of a certain success, though in the end, this show would never actually make it to television, with the showrunners proclaiming that the program would not see the light of day. And this was all thanks to the events of March 9th, 2015. It was the start of their second episode. The first had seen the elimination of professional footballer Sylvain Wiltord, after his team failed to make it out of the wilderness first, which left 7 contestants who were now ready for round 2. The day's shoot began in La Rioja, Argentina, with the cast being blindfolded in preparation to be loaded up into their helicopters and dropped at their next
that nigga throwing up YVL? The fuck you got going? Hey, damn.
Location. Olympic gold medal swimmer Alan Bernard was one of the first to step onto the craft, but was quickly told to exit, as his team had been the first to be dropped in the last episode, meaning that to make it fair, it was time for the other group to go first, thus giving them slightly more time. And so he stepped off the craft and waited with his group, as the other team instead loaded in. There were 2 helicopters on the scene. One was set to carry 3 contestants, Florence Atu, Samuel Muffet,
I think I watched it with Dante. Word.
And Muffet touches and just gets there.
And Alexis Vastine.
Yo, I don't trust helicopters, bro.
Along with a crew member
I
and
know
one
so
pilot.
many helicopter crashes.
Meanwhile, the other craft was strictly for the crew, holding 4 production workers as well as a single pilot, with Alan Bernard and his group staying on the ground with their backs turned to the craft, as they eagerly anticipated the return of those helicopters to then take them. And so, with their blindfolds on in the pitch darkness, the team...
Bro, helicopters are so easy to, like, stop working. Like, they can just stop working, bro. It's crazy. I'm telling you, it's, like, mad crazy, bro. Like, it's so many... Like, they're so much more common than plane crashes, bro. Facts.
As they heard the sounds of the crew cheering on a successful takeoff, though the cheering would be cut short by an awful sound. The sound of crushing metal.
For real? Oh, hell nah. Fuck, bro. Oh, word.
Ooh, such a ball.
Viñeta. Viñeta. Fuck, bro. How much helicopter crashes we got? $14. Damn, only 14? But the thing is, though, ain't gonna lie, people be flying on planes way more often than they fly on helicopters, though. I'm gonna say that.
The aftermath was recorded on the cell phone of someone standing nearby, showing us a large group of people rushing towards a massive plume of smoke.
Oh yeah, we know that. We know that.
Where they would find the remains
Shit,
of one of the aircrafts, mangled and reduced to an unrecognizable mass of steel, with none of the contestants being able to make sense of what had just happened.
Fuck.
It's very possible that the incident itself was captured by the production's own cameras. However, this footage has never and likely will never be released. Though coincidentally, they weren't the only ones recording. As someone watching nearby just so happened to be filming the takeoff of these two crafts, showing us the reality of what had just transpired.
No. What the fuck? First off, bro, God forgive me. I didn't mean to curse like that, bro. My bad. But like, yo, did y'all, bro? What is it? Yo, where did y'all get y'all license at? Are we serious? You seen RD tragedy? Over 200 people died on a concert.
Just as the two aircrafts are taken to the sky,
roof collapse.
the
No, I haven't
second
seen
and
that.
lowest helicopter began rapidly ascending, with the pilot seemingly failing to realize that the other craft was directly above them, causing the two.
That's why people got to be aware. Like this could have been all prevented if they was just aware, bro. Lock in. You're on a helicopter. Like I don't understand that, bro.
Collide and then plummet to the ground below.
It's so easy to die. Like
in the
people
end,
like, come on,
10
bro.
people
Lock
went
in,
into the
man.
sky,
That stuff is,
and none made
that's
it down alive.
Tough, man. R.I.P., bro.
The footage makes little sense even today. The weather was perfect, the crafts were some of the best in the world, and both of the pilots not only had 30 plus years of flying experience, but they were both flight instructors themselves. Not to mention that the show's security coordinator, who was in charge of facilitating the takeoff, had actually worked on the Swedish
Dominicans
version
are my cousins, bro. I love y'all niggas.
Of the show, and had ample experience in this exact situation. And yet, this is how it ended. It was eventually determined that the higher helicopter was likely flying out of visual contact from the lower helicopter, and that the pilot of the ascending chopper likely just didn't realize how close they were, with reports also indicating that he may have been distracted by the actual filming process, something we've tragically seen before.
We're gonna pull out. We don't know what has just happened right there.
And because of this, it appeared that at least some pilot error was to blame. But it was ALP that was found largely responsible, with alleged serious safety oversights being discovered later on, with it appearing that this crash was the result of multiple small factors coming together to form one catastrophic accident. After the incident, Dropped was swiftly cancelled, while the team that had so narrowly avoided getting on that flight and in turn likely having perished themselves were left in complete and utter shock, forever changed by the accident. With Alan Bernard, the man that's said to have been physically on that doomed craft for a split second, later recounting that there was a life before and after Dropped, because you don't come out of such an accident unscathed. In the end, AOP was indicted on manslaughter charges and found to be an inexcusable fault for the disaster, though it doesn't really seem like they faced any sort of actual legal punishment, with the company continuing their work on other programs to this day. But one thing that I was surprised to find in my research was that ALP is actually no stranger to the world of disturbing television moments. In fact, they had experienced one just a single year before this accident.
Hell no, what they been doing, bro?
As mentioned previously, ALP was already quite versed in the world of survival television, as they had run 13 successful seasons of Koh-Lanta. Though what I failed to mention is that the company had actually produced 14 seasons. Or at least they attempted to. It was season 13, during the very first day of filming, when contestant Jura Baban collapsed after the show's second challenge, with the show continuing to film as if nothing happened. Anonymous reports from the set claim that once on the ground, it took the medical team nearly 5 minutes before intervening, as to not interrupt their recording, and once they eventually did tend to him, he became more alert and complained of having severe cramps. But the show's primary doctor, Terry Costa, didn't believe that his ailments required an emergency airlift, as this would have cost the production company far too much money, especially on the first day of filming. Instead, Jura was diagnosed with dehydration and was brought back to their makeshift infirmary, where he would lay for nearly 2 full hours, until he was finally taken away by a proper medical team.
Bro, are we serious?
On his way off the island, Jura Baban would pass away from cardiac arrest at the age of just 25.
People be greedy as fuck, chat, bro. Like, I'm telling you, it'd be wicked out here.
Cardiac arrest that was completely missed by the show's doctors. The testimony from those on the scene painted ALP and Dr. Costa in an extremely negative light, as their inability to act quickly and recognize the ailments of Baban likely contributed to the young man losing his life, with some claiming that the doctor and the showrunners were far more interested in keeping the production running smoothly than actually caring for the young man. And though ALP denied any wrongdoing, the season would essentially be cancelled right there on the spot.
Holy.
But disturbingly, despite the filming lasting only 1 day, Baban's death wasn't the only tragedy to occur as a result.
Crow, real one.
Due to intense public ridicule, Dr. Terry Costa would end his life just days later, stating that all the negative news reports about him were wrong and that they had sullied his good name, writing in a final note, "I'm sure that I treated Jura in a respectable manner, as a patient and not as a contestant," adding, "having to reconstruct this destroyed reputation would be unbearable," before ending his letter with a message to those on the shoot that had spoken out against him. The author of the anonymous comments about the circumstances of Jura Baban's death, and those who spread them, will have to face their conscience.
What?
In the end, Koh Lanta would return a year later and has been going strong ever since, as ALP did not appear to face any serious repercussions for the incidents that transpired under their watch, with their fault in both cases being debated to this day.
Emergência 91,
That shit
a
crazy,
vida
Chad.
como ela é na tela do SBT.
It's July 5th, 1993, in downtown Sao Paulo, Brazil. A doorman working at a busy office building looks up to the sky and notices a woman sitting on top of the structure, her legs dangling 7 stories above the pavement below, one wrong move away from certain death. Precisely what she wanted. The man calls the police immediately, though surprisingly, they wouldn't be the first on the scene, and instead, they were beaten by a camera crew. The group was from the show Aqui Agora, a news program from the network SBT that had become notorious for their sensationalized and shocking stories. In their history, they had captured live footage of police riots, kidnappings, and even murders, which they would then broadcast on air as part of their show. And this unfolding situation was their content for the day.
Like, bro, mind you, chat, these niggas are praying something like this happens. Like, you about to, you know what I'm saying, in GTA, end your life in GTA? Oh yeah, nah, that's our bread and butter. Nigga, what? Seriously, bro? Oh, someone finna get kidnapped. Oh, your child gone for 5 years. Oh, you can't find them. Oh, we finna make a news. We finna make an episode about this shit. Yo, it's crazy, dog.
O corpo de bombeiros chegou, os bombeiros
Yo, they get horny when that, you know what I'm saying?
O que é um suicídio? Onde?
They want the crime rate to be terrible.
Nós vimos juntos. Um bombeiro olhou pra cima, tava lá a menina, sentada no parapeito.
Ain't it like?
E eu tomei um susto. A câmera olhou também, nós tomamos um susto.
Her name was Daniele Alves, and at the age of just 16, she had entered that office building and climbed up to its roof with the hopes of ending her life. And minutes after Aqui Agora arrived, she did just that, as their cameras captured it all.
É terrível. Daqui a pouco Aqui Agora vai mostrar as imagens chocantes de uma jovem pulando.
And I hate it. Yo, I hated that they got what they wanted, bro. They got the footage of her jumping. Nah, bro.
Para a morte. Atenção, são imagens exclusivas que não recomendamos para crianças nem para pessoas sensíveis.
Later that night, that footage would be packaged together into a roughly 10-minute segment, which the network promoted heavily throughout the day, hyping it up to be one of their most shocking episodes ever. And supposedly, it was. As though it appears that the full segment is currently lost, the footage of Daniele's fall was said to have been displayed almost entirely in full, showing the moments just before and just after she had landed, where she was said to be still somewhat alive. It was more than shocking, and left viewers outraged that something of this nature could be shown on TV. But while showing the footage proved highly controversial enough, it was the context surrounding the footage that made it even more depraved. As mentioned previously, police were called to the scene to assist in efforts to help Daniele Alves, yet the first to arrive was that Aqui Agora news crew. And this wasn't a coincidence. They were all about capturing events as they unfolded, and in order to be the first on the scene, they actually tapped into the police scanners, monitoring all of the calls and information being passed through officers in order to get leads on potential stories, which is how they got word of this incident, hearing the calls and speeding over as quickly as possible. It wasn't illegal per se, but it surely wasn't ethical either. And this was only the start. After Daniele jumped, the crew that had filmed her had already captured their dramatic footage for the day, and as the officers and medical personnel dealt with the aftermath, the crew decided to turn their focus to the next element of their story: Daniele's parents. They packed up their equipment.
Chat. They record your daughter jumping off a building, hitting the ground, not censored, and still being a little bit alive a little bit after, and then dying. You witnessed that as a parent. They walk up to you with big ass cameras in your face, asking questions. I'm not gonna lie, bro. These niggas all should be arrested for life. Like, what's up?
Equipment right away and headed straight for the home of Daniele's mother and father, with it being unclear how they even got that address in the first place. And there, they once again had beaten the police, who were still back at the scene trying to piece everything together. Though rather than waiting for them, the crew instead decided to take the lead, going up to the door, ringing the doorbell, and telling Daniele's parents that their daughter had just passed away. The crew then supposedly took the parents to the police station, consoling them all while their cameras kept rolling, as the crying parents made for the perfect footage for their segment.
Chat, this different.
Exploitative is the only word for it. But what they did next, well, that was something far more evil. Having dropped the parents off at the police station, the crew then got to work creating their segment for the night, and as part of it, they needed to find a reason as to why Daniele did this. They first theorized that this was likely due to a drug addiction which had somehow spiraled and led to her jumping, but then they decided that that just wasn't dramatic enough, and they instead shifted to a different story, one that they reported to all of their viewers as if it were a fact. They reported that Daniele Alves had ended her own life because of her abusive parents, placing the entire
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm not gonna lie, this is different, bro. The original clickbait, how you gonna frame it? What you talking about?
Blame on the family how they gonna frame it on them, bro? And there was one massive issue with this. It wasn't even true. The claim appears to have been quite literally based on nothing. It has no verifiable backing and seems to have been a complete guess. In fact, just days later, Daniele's best friend spoke out and said that Daniele had done this because of a broken heart, not because of drugs or any sort of abuse. It's sickening, as the crew cared so little about Daniele's own story that they seemingly just made up their own.
Them niggas made up a lie for the content.
Going about your day when a TV crew comes to your house and tells you that your daughter is dead, and despite consoling you, those same people then broadcast your daughter's death for the whole world to see and blame you for it. Naturally, this didn't go without repercussions for Aqui Agora, who had crossed the line in the most soulless way possible.
It is a
and the
scary
effects
watch,
were
bro.
swift and powerful, as the rating soared 33%, making it more popular than ever before. The network would end up being sued by Daniele's family, who was eventually awarded
Joseph. My nigga. Seriously, bro?
awarded $1 million as a result. But realistically, no amount of money could ever be enough, as the show's actions permanently affected that family and destroyed their grieving process in a way that I can't even wrap my mind around.
What do you mean for
but this
real
did
on
little to slow
God?
down Akiagara, as they remained on the air for 4 more long years, during which they leaned even more into these unfolding crime stories, leading to them witnessing numerous other deaths, and even being taken hostage themselves on multiple occasions. Akiagara would continue on air until the year 1997, when one day the show was pulled due to its declining ratings, and in its place, the network would instead begin airing The Disney Club.
Nigga, what?
You look down the track and there is a train.
Bro, alright, bro. I try to ignore y'all niggas. Yo, y'all niggas is not gooning to me, bro. Like you was not like. What's up, bro? What's going on, son? Niggas came in chat and just started having too much fun in my shit.
It was an exciting day for the crew of the upcoming movie Midnight Rider, the Greg Allman story. Years have been spent planning and scripting for this biographical film about Greg Allman,
bro, where y'all at?
And this day, February 20th, 2016.
And this nigga pinned the fucking message. Oh my gosh, yo, not gonna lie, I don't have no more mods in my chat. I swear I don't got no more mods. Yo, I'm taking this nigga mod. This nigga just pinned that shit. Ain't gonna lie, no, I don't got no mods, gang. Hell nah. What the fuck, Crow? Yo, what are you on? Yo, I'm not gonna lie. Nah, we're fried, bro. We're fried. Yo, we're fried, bro. Golly. What about mother? Bro, no, you're not, bro. Okay. You know what, bro? We gonna continue, bro.
Would be the day that they would finally start filming.
It
was nothing more than a camera test, a day in which the crew would practice filming, as well as getting acquainted to their equipment and new co-workers. But for the group of 20, the excitement in the air was palpable, as they were given access to a stunning piece of land in Nahunta, Georgia. So stunning, in fact, that the film's director, Randall Miller, just couldn't wait to begin the actual process of filming. Slicing through the property was an old railroad that had crossed over a scenic bridge raised high above the Altamaha River, the perfect location for a shot that Miller had been envisioning. It was set to be a dream sequence where Allman's character would wake up on a hospital bed in the middle of the tracks and see a vision of his brother. And it was a shot that Miller just had to have. However, there was one major issue. The crew was given permission to film on the property, but not the actual railway, as this was owned by a separate company named CSX. And when Miller asked them for permission to film the shot, he was denied multiple times, as these tracks were still very active, making it far.
I'm already knowing. He got denied, but guess what? He still did that shit anyways, and he got ran over by a train.
Far too dangerous. But being on location
and seeing that
bridge, Miller couldn't help himself. And so he directed his crew to set up the scene anyway, believing that they could quickly steal a shot without anyone noticing.
Sanjay was just not gooning.
Miller had supposedly done his research too, and discovered that only 2 trains were set to roll through the area that day, and he knew the general intervals in which they were supposed to pass. Based on this, he figured that those trains wouldn't arrive for a few hours, giving them more than enough time to film the movie's very first scene. And so they quickly set everything up, rolling out a metal hospital bed and placing it towards the center of the bridge, with Miller assuring his crew that this was in fact
if
safe.
They say nigga, bro, no means no, bro. They could do this like some other time, bro.
As the camera began to roll. Minutes later, the bed began to shake, and the silence around them was shattered by the sound of a whistle.
We gonna listen to music after this, bro. I know it's hard to handle, but
before them was an unexpected third train, heading straight for the bridge that the entire crew was now on. Miller had gotten the schedule wrong. At this point, the crew was filming a considerable distance into the bridge, but the shortest and really only route to safety was to go towards the oncoming train, and so that's precisely the route they took. And as they did so, there was little panic within the group, as rather than rushing to safety, they all seemed more focused on retrieving their equipment, believing that they had more.
Chat, you know what's crazy? Except for the first one, the rest of these just been niggas dying because of money, bro. All because of money. Gang, the news outlet, they doing all this because of money. These niggas want to save the equipment, money. The contestants, he want to save it because of the money, the helicopter shit. Bro, I'm telling you, this is insane to me, bro.
More than enough time
this what money do to a
nigga. As after all, losing this expensive equipment on day one would have been devastating for the production. They likely had no idea that from the sound of that first whistle, they had just 60 seconds until the train would cross that bridge. whether they were off it or not. As they began to realize just how quickly the train was approaching, their movements became more hurried, which is where one major problem occurred. That metal hospital bed. It was incredibly heavy on its own, and though it was designed to roll, its wheels kept getting caught on the tracks.
It's okay,
and worst of all, it was set up horizontally, which essentially turned it into a barricade. And despite their best efforts to save everything, their time was up, and as the camera continued rolling, the train would arrive.
Holy. Yo, fuck the table. Yo, what am I motherfuck the table in the camera, bro? I don't care. Yo, leave.
At this moment, the train itself also had a camera rolling, which showed that even in those final moments, the crew was still trying to salvage their equipment. What happened next was a blur. Some were able to leap to safety, while others managed to jump to the side and cling onto the bridge. But there was still one thing that remained in the train's path. That hospital bed, which upon impact was torn to pieces. Pieces that were flung all over the area, striking multiple crew members and leaving many injured. But it was 27-year-old filming assistant Sarah Jones who was struck by the largest fragment, with a force so strong that it caused her to fall directly in front of the train.
All for some equipment, my nigga. Are you that stupid? Nigga, what?
In total, 7 crew members were hurt but alive, while Sarah Jones had tragically been killed.
All for a hospital book?
J.D. Sawyer is a gay bastard.
These niggas couldn't put together 700 fucking bummy ass dollars just to get a new one? Are we dead ass? Yo, I ain't gonna lie.
Sandwich is gay.
Yo, JPay, do you need that timeout game?
On the very first day of production, in the very first shot, the unthinkable had happened. And when it came to passing the blame, most turned their attention to Randall Miller, as he was the one who ordered the scene to be shot despite being denied permission numerous times. And this public disdain towards him only grew as he and his production company denied any responsibility, and instead, they blamed the railway company.
I'm not gonna lie, chap. Retarded niggas like these piss me off. I know people get offended by that word, nigga. Yo, these niggas are dead ass retarded, my nigga. Cause yo, they told you don't go on the track because there's trains coming. You went on the track and then you gonna blame the nigga who, like, you gonna blame the train station? Are we dead ass? Are we dead ass? Yo, people are so dumb. Like, bro, what are you talking about? Bro, I swear, like.
Just 1 week after the incident, Randall Miller requested a new permit to begin filming.
Yo, Crow, you're so weird, gang.
Asking if they can begin.
Yo, why does niggas typing out my name, bro? Chill.
This, however, would never actually happen, as he was instead arrested and given a 1-year prison sentence for manslaughter, as well as a 10-year ban from directing any films, a mandate that he would actually go on to break, though he was swiftly forgiven, and today he continues to direct. But while it's easy to focus on the morbid nature of this case and the man responsible for it, there was one unexpected outcome of this horrific accident.
Bro. We'll try again.
Upon her passing, Sarah Jones' parents set up a foundation called Safety for Sarah, which pushed for safer working conditions on film sets, with a movement bringing to light a number of safety concerns that were often brushed aside and ignored.
Put together
and all in all, their efforts have made TV and film sets significantly safer, giving their daughter a purpose even after her death.
Damn, bro.
On top of this, Sarah Jones was also honored by countless production companies across the world, as crews began writing her name on their film slates, with there ultimately being over 2,000 of these tributes for her, from some of the world's most well-known productions. But by far the biggest tribute was when she was honored at that year's Academy Awards ceremony, a stage that she always dreamed of making it to.
Damn, but she's not even allowed to make it because niggas want to be
the Academy Awards.
Stupid, bro.
Yes.
All the pills and purpose.
Overwhelming.
She made it to the Academy.
she made it.
Rest in peace, bro. Rest in peace, chat.
I wanted to give one last quick shout out to Rocket Money. It's the start of...
Hey, W video in the chat, bro. WJD for recommending me this video, bro. Let me get a WJD in the chat, bro. Let me get a WJD in the chat.